What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with a prize picks preview for round one of the Houston Open. Going to bring you guys a video breaking down what to expect here for Thursday's round, both from the weather perspective, what we saw last year for Memorial Park Golf Club, and then at the end, going to go through my top 3 props here for tomorrow that I think you may at least want to consider adding to your cards. So let's start off with the golf course, Memorial Park, a difficult track if I've ever seen one, with a scoring average 0.8 shots over par. If you recall, the last few weeks, there's been a scoring average of 1.8 under, 0.5 under par. Now we're on the complete opposite side of that spectrum at a place that is going to test players across the board. You have to have a stout short game. Birdies aren't going to come in bunches like you saw, 7, 8, 9 birdie rounds over the last few events. Getting to 4, 5 birdies might be a ceiling round around this track. So make sure we temper our expectations. We understand that this is going to play much more like a major championship than it was the Birdie Fest over the last few weeks. And though it says it's only 7,000 yards, that's if you cut off every single dog leg. It truly plays right around 7,400 yards, which is significantly longer than what they have posted here. In terms of your fairway and green and regulation percentages, they're just slightly below your tour average. So driving accuracy right around 64.2%, and your GIR percentage is 64.4%. So one thing to note is that there is one less fairway around this track. So there's only 13 fairways to hit, just because there are 5 par 3s. So of course, any hole that's not a par 3 will have a fairway on it. In this case, is only 13. So 64.2 times 13 fairways, that's going to be your field average. And then just less than 12 greens regulation going to be your average in terms of that stat. When we look at the weather, we do have this helping us out, though, so it's a difficult track. Last year, they did see quite a bit of rain, so it's worth noting that I expect the percentages to go slightly down, actually the course to get slightly harder because of that. They had a bunch of rain Wednesday night, also on Friday and Saturday evening there in 2021, which of course made hitting greens and fairways a little bit easier, and also was able to slow down the greens. So all of that is going to make the course more difficult, and you're going to see slightly harder stats in terms of hitting your greens and then your fairways. But the weather here for Thursday might counteract that. So I was kind of getting into it, but low winds the entire day. There is expected to be a little bit of rain in the morning. You can see there's a slight little shower expected to come through sometime during the morning wave, but it shouldn't be anything that throws players off too much, as they're not even accounting for really any accumulation down there in the stats. And then your wind gusts are max out at 5 to 6 miles an hour. Your sustained winds are 2, maybe 5 miles an hour at the very most, right around midday. I'm going to be playing in a dome, which is absolutely ideal for some of the guys going off early. So not only will the greens be more receptive in the morning, you have that little bit of rain coming through, which actually I think may end up helping the players. And then the lack of wind is going to lead to a lot of low scores, particularly for those that are playing in the morning. So the scoring average, I know I just talked about it being extremely difficult. If you're going to take it low, you're going to have to do it here on Thursday, right? So you can see some of the ceiling rounds from Sunday, which was difficult last year, was 5, 6, 4 under par, that sort of thing was the best score that you're going to see. I think tomorrow you're going to see 4 or 5 guys get to 5 under par, maybe even a few more than that. And then you did have Scotty Scheffler in round 2 last year take it to 8 under par. You might see 1 or 2 players get it to that sort of level. I mean, when you have super low winds, maybe that little bit of rain that comes through early in the morning, you're going to be setting up the course as easily as humanly possible. So just keep in mind that for tomorrow, you're going to see a lot of decent scoring, but do not expect that throughout the weekend. As the course gets firmer and faster, I mean, let's look at Friday's weather, right? We're not even looking at Saturday or Sunday. I mean, look at the winds, right? They go from pretty much non-existent to pretty harsh there in the afternoon wave. So something we're going to have to keep an eye on if you're playing DFS. And then throughout the weekend for prize picks, could change our projections quite a bit. With all that in mind, though, let's go through the board. So the first pick I want to touch on here is going to be Aaron Wise over 3.5 birdies. So for Aaron Wise, we know that he's in form. I mean, if you look at his recent results, they speak for themselves. A bunch of top 25 finishes, a bunch of made cuts, and last week made birdies in bunches. I mean, was top 5 in the field when it came to birdies made. Loves this golf course specifically, and at hard golf courses tends to play some of his best golf. In fact, if you sort on the PGA Tour by courses with a scoring average over par. Aaron Wise is a top 5 player on tour and is in fact a top 3 player in this field when it comes to hard conditions. So gotta like Aaron Wise there, teeing off at 8:35 a.m. So part of that morning wave that I think is going to play slightly easier than the PM. I mean, that's typically the case here on tour. He projects for slightly over 4 birdies. So I want to put this into perspective, right? I'm taking the over at 3.5 birdies. It's not like I'm projecting him for 5 birdies, right? Even 4.5 birdies for the fact of that matter. It's just slightly over 4. So there's not huge margins to be had here. So there are a few guys at 3.5 birdies I like. On my Patreon page, I have those all posted there. But it's a similar sort of player to an Aaron Wise, right? A high birdie percentage player that's teeing off in the morning, that excels under difficult conditions and has played well at this course before, right? If they can check off all of those boxes, then of these guys on here, they're probably also going to be a part of my write-up. So, obviously, if you want access to all of those that are on my Patreon page, there is a link in the description of the video to the Patreon page. That's where you can find it. But let's move on to another category. So I want to talk about our next pick, which is Maverick McNealy under 12 greens. So he's teeing off in the PM wave, which I think might be slightly more difficult than what we have in the morning. I don't think it'd be that much more difficult. But last year, the average was less than 12 greens. In Maverick McNealy is a well below average iron player. Like, I will just harp on this over and over and over again. If you look at his shots gained approach stats, even in the stretch of golf of late, which has been outrageous, right? So over his last 4 to 5 events, it's like top 25 after top 25, just going out there very consistently posting top 25 finishes, which, by the way, if you're new to golf, is not easy to do. That is ridiculously solid play. It's been all the putter. He's lost strokes on approach in all but one event over that stretch. So, the results might be a little bit deceiving there, but the iron play has not necessarily been there. So if you're going to give me a player right at the field average, actually slightly above what the field average should be, and he's a below average player, I'm going to have to take the under all day. So I think it's a relatively straightforward pick. But the rest of the board, I have to say, there's not that many that I like. I think it's relatively priced. I think it's priced pretty much spot on for most of the players here, but I would lean the under, much like a McNealy. And then the last category I'm going to touch on here is going to be fairways. So there's only 13 fairways. I mentioned that earlier, and the average was just right around 64%. So it's not impossible to hit these fairways. They are relatively wide, but it is a long golf course that does require you to hit driver on all but 2 holes. There's a 390-yard par 4, which you don't have to hit driver on. One that's 370 yards, which you can also probably hit a 3-wood on. But you're going to see a few players, especially aggressive players like a Hideki Matsuyama, hit driver on all 13 of those holes, and we know that Hideki's not very accurate. In fact, if you look at his last 2 to 3 months on tour, he is losing significantly off the tee, and especially over his last 16 rounds. So if you zoom in and really take a look at his shots gained metrics, his off the tee play has not been sharp of late. So, I'm willing to fade that. He is in the morning wave, which might help him out a little bit, but maybe that rain comes through, right? If there's one thing that's hard to do in the rain, it's hit fairways. If you get any moisture on that club face, the ball tends to travel left and right, and Hideki already has an extremely violent swing to begin with, which, if you have wet hands, an extremely violent golf swing, I think all of us out there know what can happen. Or I can hit a few little shanks from left to right, right? I probably shouldn't be saying that word because I'll end up getting the good old S words myself. But hopefully Hideki can miss those fairways for us. I hate betting against players, but at a difficult golf course, that's something that we have to take advantage of. So, kind of similar like a McNealy, I'd be leaning on a lot of unders here on the fairway board. And just remember, in the back of your mind, there's only 13 fairways here, right? Not 14 like we're used to seeing because of that format change. But that is all I've got. Like with the birdie board, the rest of the props I'm taking are on my Patreon page. So make sure to check that out if you're looking for access to everything that I'm playing. But, appreciate all the support here. Hopefully you guys feel a little bit more prepared for betting this golf tournament. I do these videos for every single Thursday round to give you some of the research heading into the weekend. If you're looking for my analysis for rounds 2 through 4, those are always going to be posted on my Patreon page. On there, obviously the people that are paying, showing me support here on the channel, helping fund everything that we're doing, are going to get those plays. But of course, for every Thursday, you can expect a video here on YouTube covering, what to expect from the course and of course these top plays. So the last 3 weeks, we have hit our free plays here. So hopefully we can make it 4 weeks in a row. That would be pretty awesome for you guys. Just know that not every pick I put out hits, right? Like, you know, I've seen a few people have laid on these videos like, oh my God, you always hit. The people on the Patreon have seen like not every single prop hits, but my prop hitting percentage is about 74%. So it's well above average. That's over the last 6 months, right around 74%. But hopefully our free play, you know, percentage, we can just continue to get up there. That's closer to like 85% over our last 6 months. So we've definitely been running pretty hot on these free plays, and hopefully can continue that here for Thursday. But until then, guys, best of luck, and I'll catch you guys for next week.